Trey Ryder. Welcome to the Sport Profile.
Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You are one of the lead broadcasters for the American Cornhole League. Do you play cornhole?
So, I mean, I kind of grew up playing, and that's kind of how originally I got into the sport as a whole. So I'd say I played it kind of at a league level, similar to if you were to join a bowling league or, go to trivia night every Tuesday or something like that. I played cornhole like that throughout high school, and then when I graduated, I still played a little bit, some tournaments here and there. So roughly a competitive level player in the game, and so yeah, I still try to keep my skills somewhat fine-tuned, but I definitely don't play as much as I used to.
Give me the art of a good cornhole toss.
What
does it have to have?
Yeah, the most important thing is what we call a flat bag. And so when I talk about a flat bag, it's a bag that, if I use my phone kind of as a
Please don't throw your phone.
As an audio or as just a visual for those who are watching on video, yeah. It's really a bag that flies like a pancake through the air. Okay. And so or a frisbee in a way. And so the idea is, you always want to learn the technique first, because upon release, if you can get that bag to fly flat, you can see on the board behind me, the goal is to land it towards the center of the board. And if that bag is flat, it's always, once it lands, going to fly straight. If you often, an amateur player, they start balling it up and throwing it like a knuckleball, you're often going to see times it hits the board, jumps left, hits the board, jumps right. It's very unpredictable. So the flat bag technique allows you to have a repeatable motion that, if you hit that same spot on the board, it's always going to go in the hole.
Is there something in the grip of like how you hold the bag first that like maintains that flatness? And even
yeah. So a lot of people, so there's kind of different varying grips, but all of them, the goal is to grab and really hold on to the beads that are inside of that bag.
Okay,
right?
hold on.
You don't want to have you don't want to have kind of a loose grip. Like, you want to be able to hold a portion of that. Now, there are different varying grips. There are grips that kind of crumple the bag in certain areas that you're really grabbing about half the beads. But in general, the most common grip is thumb on top, hand below, and grabbing about half the beads. That gives you the best ability to have a manipulation of a bag.
Are there different types of, pardon my phrasing, are there different types of, I guess, throwing motions? Like, like you have different pitches in baseball where, if I, hold it like how you were saying, the flat bag, that's like one name versus, another.
Yeah. So in short, there's really 5 main shots in cornhole. The first is what we call a slide shot. That's going to be essentially what I just said, right? It's your flat bag that lands and slides up. Okay. Then a variation of a slide shot is what we call a block, right? So if I was playing against you and you really wanted to slide every bag in the hole, I want to prevent you from doing that. I want to place a bag right in front of the hole. To do that, I'm going to throw my traditional slide bag, but I'm just going to elevate it slightly on my arc. Right, so we talk about the arc of motion, right? So it just takes up a little bit of a little less speed and sits in front of the hole. Okay. Another, what we call, is one of the flashiest shots we have is called an airmail, right? So an airmail would be like a swish in basketball. It goes straight through the hole without touching the board, right? And so in that case, again, I'm going to have kind of a similar motion to my slide shot, but I'm going to throw it higher and I'm going to throw it deeper so that it can get over anything that's sitting in front of the hole. The fourth type of shot is what we call a push. So if I have a bag in front of the hole and I want to go through it and I want to go with it, bags in the ACL are two-sided, meaning that one side of the bag has one material and the other side of the bag has another material. Most times, those have 2 different speeds when you talk about sliding up the board. And so strategically, players can select bags that may have a big difference in the speeds of their 2 bags or a very small difference between those 2 bags. But in general, if I want to push a bag in, players will generally flip the bag over so that the fast side of the bag is down. And so when it lands on the board, it has a little bit extra speed, has a little bit less friction, and can easily push through another bag. That's the push. The final shot in cornhole is what we call a roll bag. Okay. Let's say, again, we have a bag sitting right in front of the hole. Our goal is to land short of that block bag, and then based on how we orient the bag, it pops up in the air, rolls over it, and goes into the hole. Okay. So in that variation, we talked about, a push shot. A push shot would have a lower trajectory. The roll shot is the only one of those shots that actually changes the angle of the bag as it flies through the air. Okay. In that instance, imagine a flat bag flying through the air. A roll bag will want to be what we call backloaded, meaning that as it spins, it's actually tilted upward like a plane trying to take off. The reason that it's going to fly through the air like that is because now, if you imagine a cornhole board also being slanted, that bag also being slanted means upon impact, it is doing what we call matching the plane of the board. So it's like you smack your
That
own
makes
hand,
sense.
right? It's going to land and immediately want to bounce up just like dribbling a basketball, right? If a bag is flying completely flat, that leading edge is going to hit first and it's going to cause it to slide. But if you're throwing a roll bag and it is back loaded, as we call it, once it makes contact, it pops instead, and that causes a rolling action. So those are the five main shots in cornhole. There are different variations of all of those bags. There's also a cut bag in which a player, instead of backloading it like a roll, will actually angle it sideways so that once it makes contact, it actually, almost like a curveball, curves around a bag on the board. There's a number of different shots and lingos and things of that nature, but those kind of give you the five main shots, kind of with the cut being a sixth main shot in cornhole.
That is so interesting. I love that. The reason it's interesting to me is because you don't know the nuances of the different bag types, the different shots, how you just articulated so beautifully, by the way. Like I love hearing people get so like in the weeds about a topic, one, they're passionate about, obviously, but two, like something that the greater public does not pay attention to. Nobody's thinking about like if they're hitting a slide shot or a flat shot. I'm not gonna lie, and you're probably gonna cringe. I had fun just going like overhand like a basketball shot.
Yeah, we get that question a lot. They go, "Can I
Yeah,
throw it overhand?" And I said, "You can, but you won't be as good as you will be underhand."
it's really so people who throw overhand are not as good.
I've never seen a player have any type of success in the ACL throwing overhand, ever.
That's great. But so people have done it though. You just haven't seen success.
I mean, I've seen it from the average Joe at the bar who just wants to mess around a little bit. I've never seen someone, seriously try to play in a game throwing overhand.
So let me ask you that because you just mentioned the phrase average Joe at a bar. You went to Clemson University, ACC school, big football school, obviously. You mentioned how you were, playing competitively in high school and, beyond. Were you like going to tailgates for games and just like observing cornhole and just being like, I'm better than all of you?
No, I didn't put my nose up at anybody. It was more of like trying to teach all of my friends. Like that was the first thing that I did was my freshman year. I had to teach all of my friends because it's a game that I still love. I brought my boards to school when I played. And so when I did that, it wasn't fun just to beat up and beat everybody 21-0 every
But
single
you
time.
could.
Right. You're right. But what I did was, you play enough, you show everybody the technique. By the time that we were juniors and seniors, like they were competitive games, right?
Hmm.
And it wasn't as if I was just all of a sudden, I was always the best one there, right? There were
Right.
times I lost plenty of games in my junior and senior year, right? Because, you teach your friends and then they're the ones that want to go out and hustle people. It's like, all
Right.
right, easy there. So,
So they'll
no,
they'll have that on their conscience, not yours.
exactly. You got it.
I love that. So the league began in 2015 and, just has taken a lot of people by storm, quite frankly, in the last few years. You know, I feel like coming out of COVID, a lot of people are playing more games outside, obviously. I mean, you have a distribution deal with ESPN and CBS Sports. I mean, the league's obviously very popular. What are you excited for, about like the future of the league?
I think what we've done over these first 10 years of our existence is really build a solidified and established and respected professional sport, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to be the NBA or the NFL, but
But
as
that's
a
also not your
niche
goal.
property, as a challenger sport, like it still has such an admiration for people that watch it, and so we've established that professional level. The next 10 years, the next 5 years for us is all about the amateur side, the participation side of the game. We certainly don't want to leave the professional side behind. We want to keep that as a forefront of what we do and want to keep that at the highest level. What we've leaned into is building the amateur side of the game, and a lot of that has come from we're launching a new technology in Q1 of 2026 that will allow anybody who's anybody to download an app, run a cornhole tournament, earn ACL points, buy a membership, keep track of your statistics, brag to your buddies about how much better of a PPR or a CPI that you have from them, right? There's so many different elements in which people are excited about. So honestly, just really excited for like the next growth of the amateur side.
You still have the main product is like the ACL league. Your goal is like that broader expansion into the more consumer type space.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you think about it, we have directors across the world now. We have directors in over 30 countries, a big conglomerate of directors in Europe that are running tournaments. We just had an ACL Europe Championship event
I
in
did
which we
see.
sent a number of American players over there, represented by 20 different countries at a single event. So
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 cool.
continue we continue to make really good strides in how we grow and really want to focus on that. And we think the power empowerment of our technology is going to help us get there.
It's a great nugget to see how you're kind of like growing the game and like expanding the game because like, like I said, people do think of it as just like, your backyard type sport. I don't know how many people in my circles personally know that like there's a professional cornhole league, which is cool to say because, it kind of goes in line with the leagues like, Sail GP. You know, it's like there's a professional sailing league, and guess what? Tom Brady's a team owner. It's like, what does Tom Brady and sailing have to do with each other? Nothing. But like, hey, he's an owner of
Right.
the team. Kind of going off that, what do you enjoy about those smaller leagues? I don't want to say non-traditional, but like, outside of the major sports. What do you enjoy about those smaller leagues that like keeps you so invested in them?
Yeah, I mean, niche sports are a core critical part
Niche
of
sports. That's
every
the word I'm
yeah.
using. That's the word I
Yeah, yeah,
wanted for.
they're a core part of everybody's sports journey, right? I mean, I
Yes,
think everybody has an appreciation for those, and I think that makes them unique in particular. Is many of them come from a participation background, right? When people that are into table tennis played table tennis, people that are
sure.
into cornhole played cornhole, right? I mean, people that are into pickleball play pickleball, right? And so I think
Mhm.
that's a big part of it, and I think it makes it more relatable than anything else. I always use the analogy, right? When people watch Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes throw a 65-yard touchdown pass, not many people from their couch, unless they're the high school superstar that never grew up, they don't say to themselves, "Man, I can do that," right? That's something that
Sure.
I can relate to as something that I have an experience with. But when you watch a four-bagger on TV by one of our professional players, although you can't play with the consistency that they can,
Not even close.
everybody has that memory of playing against the rival tailgaters or at the graduation party when you and mom beat dad and sister, right? And that
Yeah,
was a really cool experience where you got to enjoy that, and that's relatable, and that's what makes niche sports, and I think cornhole in particular, so much fun to be a part of, so much fun to
sure.
to watch it grow, and something that's desirable for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. Shifting gears a little bit to you as the ACL broadcaster. And, obviously you're very intense with the league, but like how are you finding your nuggets and preparing for your broadcasts for a niche sport such as cornhole?
Yeah, yeah. So I always say that the thing about broadcasting cornhole and that's different than something else is the what I'm trying to do is let's pretend we took Kirk Herbstreit and we put him on Mars He was going to call a football game to aliens that had never seen football before. The nuggets and the things that he would talk about would be different for that audience versus the audience that he's already calling to here in the United States. I take a similar approach, right?
Sure.
We started this call by talking about all of the different ways that you can throw a cornhole bag and the different techniques and things of that nature. Obviously, I'm picking up a vibe that was interesting to you, and it's the same
It
vibe that I
was.
get. It's the same vibe that I get when I'm calling a game and I hear from people that are not familiar with the game, that may be turning the channels and find cornhole on ESPN. They may say to themselves, well, I'm on ESPN and I'm watching cornhole, but I don't know a lot about the intricacies of the sport. So my
Right.
message is just to get people into the community and to have them understand what in the world is going on, right? And so it's a very basic, it's a lot of explanation. It's a lot of showcasing what is happening in the minds of the players, what is happening in all
Mhm.
these different elements, right? But then we transition and maybe we're doing a stream and that stream is on our YouTube page. Generally,
Right.
our YouTube audience is going to be much more diehard cornhole players.
Sure.
And so the thing that's elevated over the years is when I go into a stream, I'm not going to spend a lot of that stream talking about telling people that there's two sides to a cornhole bag and this is what a roll bag is. The reason I'm not doing that is because you have to know who your audience is. And so
Sure.
in those instances, it's much more about getting to know the players, knowing their stories, knowing their tendencies, how they've been performing. And so in general, the way I approach a TV broadcast is really, unlocking the real big stories, but also, the educational elements of the game that we
Mm.
want to find certain times to talk about throughout the show. Whereas when
Sure.
I go into a stream, a lot of my work has to be done ahead of time in that I have to get to know who these players, their choices, their tendencies, their statistics, information
Right.
about them, because my audience, my core diehard audience, has much more of a craving for that information. So I think just a key element of any type of broadcast is knowing who your audience is at that time.
Sure. You touched on an interesting point about like the audiences. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like your broadcasting style is different intentionally for a stream on, say, your YouTube page versus like an ESPN/CBS broadcast.
Yeah, 100%. It has to be. It's different audiences. It's a different approach. There's so many differences among the people that I'm talking to and even the action that I'm seeing, right? A lot of times when we're talking about a broadcast, usually on ESPN, that's the finals, right? I had to
Yeah.
showcase the stakes. I have to showcase, what is happening, right? And education of why and how. Whereas when we talk about a stream, there's a lot of buildup. It's the grinding part of it. It's trying to get through a marathon, right? A
Yeah.
broadcast maybe an hour or 2 hours. I've done 7-hour streams before, right? And so
Wow.
that takes much more of an
Oh
esports
my
approach, right?
God.
Yeah, no, but they're fun. It's like, okay, if you go on YouTube, you go on Twitch or you go on TikTok, a lot of times you're going to see a streamer of a game, right? And they're interacting with the chat. It's a different vibe. It's not the best analogy that I can show people is the difference between if you watch the finals of esports on ESPN, right? That is a full production in education,
Yeah.
showcasing just the best of the best in the world. But on a stream, it's very interactive, right? People are talking to the
Right.
chat. It's a little bit more loose. You're telling a lot of stories, right? Because it's not 1 or 2 hours. You can't program every second. When you start
Sure.
getting into 4, 5, 6 hour streams, we're talking about a way that we're just continually trying to keep people engaged. And a lot of that is through interaction and engagement.
No, that makes sense. Pre ACL, did Trey Ryder always want to get into broadcasting?
No, never even thought a second of it.
Really?
By trade, when I went to school, the funny part is I was an engineering major. I got a degree in chemical engineering from Clemson. I was very left-brained, very math and science guy, very analytical, and still am to this day. And I think
Sure.
that's what's made me successful in my role, right?
Yeah.
But being very analytical, growing up when you're in high school, if you're the math guy, everybody just says go get an engineering degree.
Yes.
And I worked for a couple of years as an engineer while I was doing cornhole stuff part-time for the league, and I was good at engineering, but I didn't love it. And
Mhm.
so I always loved sports. I had a passion for it. And so when this opportunity came about to get involved in cornhole, a sport at the grassroots level, like, at the infancy, like that was a really cool and incredible opportunity. And so I took a chance on it, and it's paid off, and it's been, the best professional decision of my career to get involved in it. And even to this day, it's like, it was kind of just a one-off. I got lucky. There was an opportunity, there was an opening. I knew a lot about cornhole. I was frustrated with the way people weren't able to articulate all the cool different elements of the game. And I said to
Right.
myself, I feel like I want to teach people. And that's kind of the core of where my desire for broadcasting came about, is I wanted to teach people about the game that I loved. And so, especially from the onset, like that was a big focal point of how I approached my commentary, was just teach people at the home what I'm seeing, let them know what I'm thinking, and articulate it in a clear way.
Right. Outside of the general love of cornhole, why did you believe that, like, hey, you knew more about cornhole and the intricacies of it than the next Joe Schmo tossing a bag at a Clemson fraternity?
Yeah. I don't know if it definitely wasn't from a point of arrogance that I thought I could
Oh,
do
of
it better
course
than
not.
anybody else, but it was more of just from a position of like, someone's got to do it. And I don't know if it's
Sure.
me, and I don't know if I'm the best guy, but like, I just felt like the sport wasn't getting the respect or the notoriety that I thought it deserved, because I did think it was a relatable
Yeah.
sport. I did think that people had their stories about it. And so for me, when an opportunity presented itself, it was really just like, hey, I know about this. I'm gonna go talk about it. And look, if I bomb, I bomb, right?
Sure.
And it was more about just trying to take a chance on the sport and seeing if there would be a way that we could, talk about it. And that was the focal point for us. And that's what we
Right.
did from the beginning, and just educate people on it. And so, yeah, certainly over time, if you go watch those broadcasts from 2017, they're probably god awful compared to what's going
Well,
out in there
listen, I'm
now.
sure
But
you improve over the years.
yeah. And so it's all about getting better, right? And the style and the tone and the approach is different, but
Yeah.
the core principle of just teaching people what cornhole is still remains a focal point.
I say that I say that about the 2020 episodes of the Sport Profile. Like, hey, they're still up. If you want to listen to a 20-year-old kid who had the voice of a flute at the time, be my guest. I don't think you'll enjoy it. We live and we learn. you know, just about broadcasting in general, Trey. What stories you're obviously a sports fan. Like, what stories do you wish you would hear more about in broadcasting?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. I think the thing that makes cornhole really unique, we have so many people of so widely different backgrounds, right? So
Sure.
we have people. I always like to say, like, the thing with LeBron James, he didn't know how good he was going to be, but that guy knew he was going to be a really, really, really good basketball player when he was 7 years old, right?
Sure.
I am taking a guy that was a plumber 6 months ago, and I'm putting him on national television, and I'm trying to tell about his technique and his story and everything like that. I
Yeah.
think what makes cornhole interesting in particular is the fact that there are a lot of incredible stories from people of so many different backgrounds. And so the
Right.
thing that I love about sports is other sports do a good job of telling those stories, right? They're really in-depth, off-the-wall stories. Just sometimes it can be more difficult to find those really, really unique instances, right?
Sure.
Cornhole, we get them all the time. I mean,
Like
we
the
just
instance of the plumber
Y
and,
yeah, I
turning
mean, we just
pro.
had this past month our first event of the season. It was one of our opens. Um, we just had a finals that set the record for longest game in ACL history, which is really cool. It went 53 rounds, which is,
Holy
yeah,
crap.
incredible to talk about how long a game can go. And it was between two players who have a combined age of 24, and by
Wow.
it was won by a 9-year-old. And so, right,
What?
those are stories that no other sport can really have. This past season, about a year and a half ago, we had an event. A team made the playoffs, and it was the first time in cornhole history that on a TV broadcast, a quadruple amputee played on live television. Dayton Weber has no arms below his elbows and no legs below his knees. They were amputated when he was a baby from a bacterial infection, and he just
Oh
grew
my
up learning
God.
how to hunt and fish and drive a car, and eventually learned how to play cornhole, and now plays at the professional level. So there are stories like that that no other sport really has. And so the most important thing for me is being able to find a way to tell all those stories. And that's the fun part of it.
I'm speechless. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That's
mean,
incredible.
I could go on for days. We have
Oh, I'm sure.
um one of our, one of our winningest players of all time, Damon Dennis, worked 25 years at a Baby Bell cheese plant factory in Litchfield, Kentucky, and
Love a good
literally
Baby
didn't
Bell.
leave from Kentucky until he found cornhole and used cornhole as an opportunity to travel the world, because he never got the opportunity to do that, and did that in his retirement. Became one of the best he became the winningest senior player of all time through that.
No way.
It's like I said, we could literally do an hour and a half podcast of me just going through
Oh, I'm
every
sure.
story and all the different people. It's
Oh
incredible.
my God, yeah. We'll save that one for next time, because I do want to have that conversation with you just out of pure curiosity for myself. But Trey, the question I do ask everybody at the end of every episode is, just professionalism aside, like, cornhole, broadcasting aside, like just you as a person, what do you like most or admire about yourself?
Whoa, that's a good question. Yeah, no, I think that, yeah, that's really good. What do I like about myself? I really like that. I feel like I'm a leader at my company, and a leader that really cares about people and is a people person first and foremost. I think I have a strong ability to develop relationships with people, and I think I have a strong relationships to be able to understand people. And so because of that, it
Yeah,
gives me the ability to approach different situations with many different viewpoints. And I think that makes me relatable, and I appreciate that. And that makes me feel good about myself, knowing that,
totally.
because that means I can approach any situation, and I can approach any person in the scenario that they're in, and be able to provide them with, whether it's guidance or just someone to listen to, or a vent space, or really just someone to give a hug to, right, if you need it. So I take a lot of pride in that, and I think that's the key point that's made me successful, and something that I think and I hope that I hold on to for my entire career.
I love that, man. Thank you. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you coming on. I know we got the Winter Haven Open coming up soon. Excited to check that out. I'm grateful you're, able to come on and share your story a bit.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dylan. I really appreciate you having me.